Welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Joy Taylor. Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Acho are off today. I'm with Fox Sports analyst Rick Bucher. Let's get started in Dallas. The Cowboys locked up the NFC East, but it's not all been positive. Their offense has been up and down, and Dak Prescott is 4-3 in his last 7 starts. Jerry Jones, however, still saying his quarterback's praises. Let's take a listen.
I'm very pleased with what Dak has been doing, and I can appreciate the challenges that we're facing from the defenses that we're playing. But in general, I'm going to say not thrilled to death. I'm ecstatic that we've got him here with the health he's got, with the season that he's got under his belt, with where we are.
We're joined by Fox NFL analyst Bucky Brooks. But Rick, do you believe that Jerry Jones is very pleased with Dak?
I actually do, Joy. I believe that he's very pleased, and I believe that Jerry Jones would be very pleased with Dak Prescott even if he was stinking up the joint. I believe that Jerry Jones loves Dak Prescott and loves everything about Dak Prescott because at the heart of it, Jerry Jones tips us off to let us know, yeah, circumstantially, there's some things that I shouldn't be very pleased with, but I'm going to take into account the fact that he's coming back from injury, the fact that we've had other issues this season. I'm going to take it as a whole and say that I am very pleased with Dak Prescott. But the fact of the matter is, this is a little bit like, and I don't know if you guys have done this, I know that I have. I get people who tell me, my wife, let's be straight about it. My wife will say, look, you're spending too much on that. You shouldn't buy that. And I get a little bit stubborn and I buy it. And then say I wear it or I drive it. And I go, in my mind, I know my wife was right. I spent too much on this. I shouldn't have bought this. But am I going to concede that? Hell no. No. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to wear it. I'm going to say, no, I love this. And then a little bit down the road, when I can kind of cop out and say, well, it's kind of run its course, then I might dive out of it. But am I going to admit right off the bat that I spent too much for something or I bought something I shouldn't have? Hell no. And neither is Jerry Jones.
I'm trying to figure out what the standard is for Dak's success. Does he have to be Tom Brady? Does he have to be Aaron Rodgers? Does he have to be Matthew Stafford, who has done exactly nothing in the postseason? Because those are the quarterbacks for the teams that are higher than his team in the NFC this season. What has Dak done since he's been paid? Came back from a major injury, won the division. They're 11-5. And as I mentioned, they're 4th in the conference. Why shouldn't Jerry be happy? What more does Dak need to do in this particular moment for Jerry Jones to be happy with? That is a successful season as of right now. Now, if they get into the playoffs and they lose badly in the first round, we can have a different conversation. But up until this point, Dak has been wildly successful. He's got to be Aaron Rodgers. He's got to win the NFC and have a bye and have the best record in the NFL in order for Jerry Jones to be happy. Of course, I believe Jerry Jones. I would be happy. I am happy with Dak Prescott. I don't think that Dak Prescott is Tom Brady. I don't think he is Aaron Rodgers. But Dak Prescott is doing what Dak Prescott does, which is win and win the division. What has Dak done that is such a big question that Jerry Jones should be unhappy with it? Have they had a couple issues this year? Sure. They're 4th in the NFC. They won the division. Look at the teams that are ahead of them. It makes sense. It's not like they've had a failure of a season and they're going into the postseason. He's at a career high 32 touchdown passes this season. He's 5th highest in completion percentage, 5-0 in the NFC East this season. They're 1 win away from sweeping the division. What more does he have to do?
Are you asking
Joy,
me?
I don't know.
Or
no, I don't know. I don't understand it. I mean, I know I'm having these New Year's resolutions and I'm being super positive. And I'm going to continue to be positive about Dak Prescott because I would change the words for Jerry Jones. I wouldn't say please. I would say ecstatic. He is ecstatic at how Dak Prescott has performed coming back off of a devastating injury. And when you think about the Cowboys, yes, they're going to sweep the division. They won the division. They're one of the top seeds in the NFC, and they've done it when Dak Prescott has been injured for probably about half of the season. And so to think about the performance that he put up, Joy, you talked about career high, 32 touchdowns. He is at his career best when it comes to completion percentage. His passer rating is the second highest of his NFL career. Why wouldn't you be ecstatic about a quarterback that is performing at a career level, particularly one that's coming off a devastating injury and leading a team that didn't make the postseason last year, back to the playoffs this year, and in a tournament in which it is always decided by quarterbacks? You have to feel good about your quarterback if you're Jerry Jones, because you may feel like you have the best quarterback in the tournament when it's all said and done. I think if you're the Dallas Cowboys, the front office, you're giving Dak Prescott a standing ovation for a job well done.
All right, I didn't know that I was going to have to be doing a show with two crooked bookkeepers, but that's what it looks like, and so I'm going to roll with it. Yes, the Cowboys have had a successful season. Yes, Dak Prescott has had some highs when it comes to his personal percentages and statistics. But what do I want? What do I expect? I expect that Dak Prescott is going to be the reason that the Cowboys have had a successful season. And if I'm not mistaken, and this is the beauty of you and me, Joy, doing a show an entire week together, is that the disappointment that you had in the after the Arizona Cardinals game was what? That the defense didn't come to play because the defense has been the number one piece of this team. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but that was your position, not mine. And if you're saying that the defense is the strength of this team, then shouldn't they get the credit for the fact that they've had the season that they've had? Or at least shouldn't they get the largest credit for the season that they've had? This is the distinction. When Dak Prescott, before he signed this contract, when it was Dak Prescott coming up and he was the late pick and nobody was having expectations, then yes, Dak Prescott was the overachiever, and you'd be very pleased. You'd be, to Bucky's word, you'd be ecstatic that you had Dak Prescott as your quarterback. But that's not the Dak Prescott that I have now. The Dak Prescott I have now is the most expensive quarterback in the league. And I dare say there have been times this season where the Cowboys have won in spite of Dak Prescott, not because of him. And that's the distinction that I make. Bucky, you can come out with the numbers and how it looks good for Dak and he's doing this and he hadn't done it before. And Joy, you can come out and say they won the division and they didn't make the playoffs last year and look at their record and all of that. But you have not given me the connection, the equal sign between Dak Prescott and the Cowboys winning. Because I dare say we both know that there have been a lot of factors that have gone into it, and it hasn't just been Dak Prescott. And I would argue Dak Prescott hasn't even been the biggest reason that they have had the season that they've had. And considering what I'm paying him, that's what I would expect. So you asked, that's what I would expect.
So he has to be better than Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and
No, he does not have to be better than Aaron Rodgers. He just has to be the reason that we are winning because he is my highest paid player.
I don't get caught
and he's
up.
supposedly
he's the
my driving
quarterback.
force.
You have to pay the quarterback more money. That's the world that we live in. If you have a quarterback that is better than the other quarterbacks in your division, which Dak is very clearly the best quarterback in this division, you have to pay him. Okay. That's how this goes. That's how the structure of the sport is, that the franchise quarterback is going to make a lot of money. So am I going to pay Dak Prescott a lot more than I'm paying my other players on the team? Yes. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a whole side of the ball that is the reason why they are winning. I would agree with you that the defense is the reason why they are having a lot of their success this season, which is why I said that about that Cardinals game, because I do think that it fell mostly on the defense. Was it somewhat on Zach? Of course. There's someone on Mike McCarthy? Of course. There's plenty of blame to go around, but that wasn't the question, and that isn't the question now. The question is, do I believe that Jerry Jones is very pleased with Dak Prescott? Yes, I do, because I am looking at the results. They aren't winning in spite of Dak Prescott. They are winning with Dak Prescott. And if you look at their offensive numbers, which is the side of the ball that Dak Prescott runs, they are having success. When it comes to the Cowboys, we hold them to an unrealistic standard because they are America's team. So every year we expect them to be these championship contenders. And this specific year, I do think that they are in that conversation, somewhat because of Dak Prescott and the stability that he brings to the franchise and the fact that he is a winning quarterback. But this specific year, it's because of their defense. I don't need Dak Prescott to overachieve. I need Dak Prescott to achieve, which is exactly what Dak Prescott is doing.
I get so confused with these arguments when it comes to quarterbacks, because at one point we talk about quarterbacks and the quarterback has to win. So Dak Prescott wins. And on the other point, we talk about, well, Dak Prescott is more of the game manager, not the playmaker, so I can't give him full credit. It kind of reminds me of the debate that people have when it comes to New Edition, right? New Edition has been popular for like 30 years, but people get upset because who's the most talented member of the group? Is it Ralph Tresvant? Is it Bobby Brown? Is it Johnny Gill? I don't know. Is it BBD? All I know is every time I see them in concert, they put out hit after hit after hit. And for the Dallas Cowboys, it's Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys are winning. Does it really matter if he's the lead singer or if he's the backup guy? It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we just want hits. I just want more hits from the Dallas Cowboys. Keep bringing the hits.
Well, Dak got seriously paid last season and is making $7 million alone this year. So, Rick, has he lived up to the contract in year one?
You already know the answer, because this is the heart of what I was talking about in the first segment, to answer the first question. It's Joy, I'll give you. They're not winning in spite of Dak Prescott. I think at times that's been the circumstance. And I'd say that they are winning with Dak Prescott, but they're not winning because of Dak Prescott on a consistent basis. And you're right. He is the best quarterback in their division, but he's getting paid like he's the best quarterback in the entire league. And I dare say he's not even in that conversation. So I'm okay with Jerry Jones being pleased with the season. I'm okay with Jerry Jones being pleased with their record. But very pleased with Dak Prescott when Dak Prescott is not living up to what I'm paying him. That's what's hard for me to swallow. And it's hard for me to believe, other than the fact that I do believe Jerry Jones just loves Dak Prescott regardless of what he's paying him. But here's the list. Dak Prescott, almost 3 times what the next quarterback is getting paid. So I would at least give me at least top 5 in passer rating. No, we can't get that. And by the way, this entire list, this is a reflection of all these guys. We're not talking about all these guys having great seasons. We're not talking about all these guys being the reason that their teams are winning, other than maybe Tom Brady. But the rest of the group, we're talking about how disappointing they've been or up and down their season has been. And that's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott has had a terrible season. And in light that of the fact that he's coming back from a severe injury, yeah, I'd be okay with what he's done. It's a nice step. I'm glad that he's stayed healthy. But this idea that he's very, very pleased or ecstatic would suggest that Dak Prescott has overachieved. And based on what he's getting paid, there is no way on God's green earth that I can make the argument, nor can either of you, that Dak Prescott is overachieving based on what he's getting paid. Because based on what he's getting paid, he should be 3 times better than the next quarterback.
Other than Tom Brady, that was not a very healthy list of examples of why I shouldn't be paying Dak Prescott. I'm happy to pay Dak Prescott when you're looking at that list. So other than Tom Brady,
those are the 5 highest paid players.
Did we pull that list up again? I have my glasses on, but I'm trying to see. Cash earning.
5 highest paid players this season.
Yeah, okay.
Just because 4
I'm happy to pay Dak Prescott.
out of those 5
I'm happy
teams,
to pay Dak Prescott looking at those numbers. He does
75 million?
He's not. He's achieving. I don't need you to overachieve. They've had a successful season. There's nothing that Dak Prescott is doing that is giving me massive concern. When we get into the postseason, then we can start talking and see how they do. Then we can start talking about what Dak Prescott has done with this particular contract. Dak Prescott is a winning quarterback. I don't want to get into the intangibles because it's hard to measure that, but we all know that Dak Prescott is the perfect quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And we know that being a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys is a very specific job. It's not like being the quarterback of any other team. It's like being the leader of any other team in all of sports. It's the biggest brand in all of sports, not my opinion. That's factually measurable. It is the biggest brand, and he is the leader and the face of it, while also dealing with Jerry Jones and managing that situation in Dallas, which he has done a spectacular job with, which is also the reason why he got paid. But taking that aside, taking that out of it, he's 7th in passer rating this year. He's 5th in completion percentage. Offensively, they're the highest scoring team in the NFL. They've not led in scoring since 1980. 6 games with 35 plus more points. That's the most in the NFL. It's the only offense in the NFL ranked top 5 in passing and top 10 in rushing this season. What is he not doing? Is he not being Aaron Rodgers? Well, there's only one Aaron Rodgers. Is he not being Patrick Mahomes? There's only one Patrick Mahomes. I need you to do what I pay you to do. I don't really get caught up in the money that Dak Prescott is making, because that's what the market says he's going to make as the Dallas Cowboys franchise quarterback, which he absolutely is. Is there a better option on the market than Dak Prescott for the Dallas Cowboys? No, there was not. So you're going to make what the market says you're going to make. I don't need you to overachieve, because we have talent all around you. There's plenty of talent on the Dallas Cowboys. It's not going to come down to just Dak Prescott during the regular season. In the postseason, if they're winning in spite of Dak Prescott, then we can have this conversation. But right now, he's a winning quarterback. He's blown away the other quarterbacks in his draft class, with the exception of Carson Wentz. And I would still say he's had a more successful career than Carson Wentz. He has a losing record over the last 4 seasons, 26, 28, and 1, and is on his second team. So I don't think there's anything that Dak Prescott has done, especially since he's gotten this contract, that would give me pause about whether he should have been paid or not.
If anything, Joy, I'm going to say this. I believe he's been underpaid. I'm going to do a little figuring, like pull up my paper right here. So Dak Prescott, rookie year, his first contract was $4.7 million over 4 years. The average starting quarterback was getting $30 million per during that time. That's $120 million. Let me subtract the $4.7 million. Let me carry the 1. Oh, so that puts me at about $115 million that Dak Prescott saved the Cowboys during the first 4 years of his career. So if he's 115 in the hole, he has certainly made up for that by now maybe being a little bit overpaid at this stage of his career, because we've got to remember, all those coins that Jerry Jones saved, he was able to use on other parts of the team to allow this Cowboys team now to look like a Super Bowl team. And so, if anything, the reason Jerry Jones is pleased is because he got over for the first 4 years of Dak Prescott's career, because they weren't supposed to win at that level with a 4th-round quarterback. And so you can talk about, we don't want to view him as an overachiever, but he has overachieved by what the expectation was when he entered the league as a 4th-round pick. He certainly has overachieved. Rick, let the man have his money, because he's accomplished at a rate that you're supposed to accomplish at when you're a franchise quarterback. Give him his paper. Quit counting his money.
I'm not counting Dak Prescott's money. I'm glad that he's making what he's making. Bravo that you are making $75 million this year. I would wish that for anybody. I will take it as a point in my favor that Joy has gone from very, very pleased to I don't have massive concerns about Dak Prescott based on how he's played this year. I'm going to take that as a victory, all right? But, Bucky, you bringing up the numbers of what he was paid and say that he did overachieve, I agree with you. On his rookie deal, he was overachieving. We're talking about what he's getting paid right now, brother. And the issue when it comes to what he's getting paid right now is the fact that it's going, because of the salary cap, it's going to prevent you to keep that talent that is around him. And that's the key to paying anyone is, if I'm going to pay you that kind of money, then I need you not just to do your job. I need you to make everybody better. When you're the highest paid quarterback in the league, then yes, Joy, you don't have to be Aaron Rodgers. You have to be Aaron Rodgers-esque in terms of, I'm going to make the pieces around me better. I'm going to make lesser receivers look like they are quality receivers. That's what I'm going to need Dak Prescott to do in order to live up to this contract, to say that he is earning his contract. And I haven't seen that. He's been as good as the talent that is around him. If the running game is struggling, Dak Prescott and the passing game don't look the same. If he doesn't have his full complement of Gallup, Amari Cooper, and CD Lamb, he doesn't look like the same quarterback. I'm paying him to be better than that. And that's why when I look at what he's getting paid, not on his first contract, Bucky, on this contract, I have to look at it and say, he's not playing up to it. And I never thought he would. Look, you got to have a quarterback. You got to pay him. But it doesn't mean that you didn't make a mistake in what and how much you paid him.
Okay, Rick, I may be new to this TV game, but I didn't know when you get the Rick Bucher show that you're not only going to be the guy in front of the camera, you're going to be behind the camera, you're going to write all the scripts, you're going to direct it, you're going to produce it, you're going to do everything because you're going to get the big bucks. I didn't know that that is what we do when talent gets paid. I didn't know we expected them to do everything now just because they're the headline and they got the money. I'm sorry, that's new for me. I didn't know that was the deal on TV.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers has a couple pieces around him. Not taking anything away from what he's done, but also I don't Aaron Rodgers-esque. Is there like an Aaron Rodgers store we can go to and buy an Aaron Rodgers? Because like there's one of one. And speaking of him, Aaron Rodgers will not be a unanimous MVP if it's up to one writer. We'll tell you if the quarterback's drama should be a factor in the voting process. But first, Jim Harbaugh could be eyeing a return to the NFL. We'll tell you if he'd be the right choice for the Raiders. Next on Speak for Yourself. Jim Harbaugh is coming off his most successful season at Michigan with a college football playoff appearance, but changes could be coming. Our own Bruce Feldman reports that Harbaugh might be tempted to return to the NFL. Feldman added the Raiders could be his destination and his friendship with owner Mark Davis could be a factor. So, Bucky, would Jim Harbaugh be the right choice for the Raiders?
Absolutely. He'd be a great choice for the Raiders. He is everything that they need at that position right now. Outstanding leader, proven program builder. He's done it at every level. He's done it in outstanding fashion. When you go back and look at what he was able to do at University of San Diego, then going to Stanford, then going to the San Francisco 49ers and getting them to the Super Bowl in his second season, taking that same blueprint, going to Michigan. And while some would say it took him longer to get Michigan up and going, look at the level of success that Michigan has had with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach. To take that formula, that blueprint, to bring to Las Vegas for someone who has worn the silver and black, it would be a home run hire for the Raiders. I can't see where this would go wrong. When I look at the way the team is already constructed, man, Jim Harbaugh jumps in there. I expect the Raiders to win and win at a high level right away. Mark Davis should make this move. Mark Davis has to make this move if he wants the Raiders to be back and prominent again in the National Football League.
I mean, I think Harbaugh should consider going back to the NFL. And if you look at Harbaugh's path throughout his coaching career, he generally leaves what feels like a little bit early, but kind of when he's reached a safe space. Like, okay, we've been successful, but we don't want to push it. You know, things in Michigan were very rocky for a while. Like there was a lot of people who were out on him in Michigan, and now they're in the college football playoff. It actually feels like a good stepping out point if he is going to go back to the NFL. And obviously he's had plenty of experience and success everywhere he's went, as you mentioned, Bucky. I'm just trying to figure out why, outside of the fact that he has some history with the Raiders, that he specifically would want to go there. I actually think it's a better spot for him to go to Chicago. Now, obviously we don't know if they're going to move off of Matt Nagy in Chicago, but he's worked with a mobile quarterback and had success with him before in Colin Kaepernick. Chicago is not as bad as the Raiders have been. Since 2003, they have the third lowest winning percentage in the NFL, ahead of only the Browns and the Lions. So just because of his history there doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to overcome the historic dysfunction that the Raiders have been over a little over a decade, more than a decade. So if I'm him, I'm all for going back to the NFL, and I think he will be wildly successful wherever he goes because he has shown the ability to do so. But I would have some hesitation when it comes to the Raiders. I think that the Raiders really need to bring in someone that they can build with, someone who doesn't necessarily have a tie to Mark Davis, somebody that Mark Davis allows to run the actual team. Because what we've seen with the Raiders is dysfunction after dysfunction. And having a close relationship with Mark Davis and that kind of space might not actually be the best situation. But if anyone can do it, I do think it's Harbaugh.
Yeah, I would say that he's the right choice, and the important added words to that is right now, because Jim Harbaugh is a fixer, and he was able to do that, as Bucky noted, in a number of places. Took him a little longer at Michigan. I believe because he was a Michigan man is the only reason that he was given the extra time to achieve what he was able to achieve, and there's no better time to get out than now for him from Michigan. I don't know that he's going to be able to replicate this success too many more times. So as far as his going to the Raiders and being the right choice for the Raiders, absolutely, because I saw firsthand him take what the 49ers had. The 49ers had the talent. They just needed the discipline and the design and somebody to work with the quarterback in order to lift them up. But here is the distinction, and why I say right now is because there's a reason that Jim Harbaugh has hopped around as much as he has in spite of that success. He wears people out. He wears the front office out. He wears the players out. He wears the media out. Everybody at some point, even in spite of the success that Jim Harbaugh brings, gets sick of Jim Harbaugh. So that's why he needs to move around or has moved around as much as he has in spite of the success. But that said, for where the Raiders are and the desire to get past this whole John Gruden fiasco and hit the reset button when it comes to Las Vegas and the move there, having not only a accomplished coach, but having a big personality like Harbaugh, the beauty of him is he's such a eccentric character that he can distract people while he's getting the work done behind the scenes. And so all of that is the perfect fit for the Raiders. I'm just saying 3-4 years from now, the Raiders are going to need to go find another coach because everybody's going to be done with Jim Harbaugh. But for the time being, for where they want to go, I can't think of anybody better.
Look, a lot of those people get worn down because he has high standards and high expectations. I think the proof is in the pudding when you look at the results. The guy wins. He's won everywhere. It doesn't matter. Like the naysayers and the doubters and the skeptics that were at him in Michigan. Look, they were mad because Michigan wasn't Ohio State, but Michigan has never been what Ohio State has been. And so I think he was unfairly criticized and scrutinized heading into the season. But, man, I love the way that he responded. He went to work. He diversified his staff. He has a younger, more dynamic staff at Michigan. And I think that actually serves him well because when I look at it, he can bring a lot of those guys with him to the league if he decides to come. And the reason why the Las Vegas Raiders makes a lot of sense, not only because of all the things that we talked about, right? We talked about Mark Davis being a friend and a confidant. We talked about the Raiders still have a quarterback there. So it makes it easier to jumpstart the program when you have Derek Carr. We talk about the big offensive line, the weapons that they have on both sides of the ball. That is fine. But also remember, he had to suffer the embarrassment of taking a big pay cut at Michigan. Well, now when we're hearing where NFL coaches might be making $12, $15, $20 million per, he can make up all that money that he gave up last year. Plus he goes to Vegas with no state tax. To me, look, man, I keep my pen trusty. I ain't an accountant, but I do know if you have no state tax on a big amount of money, that's a lot more savings in your pocket. Jim Harbaugh, this might be the time to do it, particularly as he's an older guy. Maybe he has a few more years. He's ready to go. This is a nice retirement plan going to the Raiders.
Jim Harbaugh's not that old. It's not like
older.
he's like in his 70s, but I am with you, Rick. He does have that reputation of being really intense. And so after a couple years, it kind of starts to rub everybody wrong. And that's kind of the reason why I don't know that the Raiders is the best spot for him. I think that Chicago would be a better situation, possibly even Jacksonville. I just don't. The Raiders do not get enough credit for how dysfunctional they are. Like, we talk about the Raiders in a certain way because the brand that the Raiders are. And it's always about some dogs and the tough Raiders and the autumn winds. Like, their brand is bigger than they actually put on the field. This year, what Derek Carr is doing is spectacular. It's been a wildly dysfunctional year for the Raiders, which is not terribly surprising. What they need is someone who's going to be there for a while. Now, I know these coaches don't just grow everywhere. It's not easy to find, but they need a culture builder. They need somebody who is going to be able to build for years and years, create a system there that actually works for the Raiders, a Mike Tomlin, an Andy Reid. You need somebody who is going to do with the long play for the Raiders. As I mentioned, they are not getting enough credit for how dysfunctional they've been, all of the losing that they have done. We don't think about the Raiders that way because the brand is so strong. And they do have young talent, and Derek Carr has done a tremendous job. I just don't know if Jim Harbaugh wants this kind of task. Like, this is a lot to overcome. Just because he's friends with Mark Davis doesn't mean this is the right situation for him. I definitely think it's, for all the reasons that you mentioned, Bucky, going to the NFL right now could be the right move for him. I just don't know if the Raiders is the place for him.
Yeah, there's two questions there. So there's would Jim Harbaugh be the right choice for the Raiders, and then would the Raiders be the right choice for Jim Harbaugh? And I'm with you, Joy, that I'm not sure that the Raiders necessarily is, if he's got more than one option, is the no-brainer decision. Because, first of all, this whole idea that he started his career with the Raiders back in 2003 as a quarterbacks coach, and therefore it would be really hard for him to say no. Like there's some mystique about the Raiders that once you've been in the club and then you, for some reason, you're not in the club anymore, that the only thing you can think about is, how do I get back in the club? How do I get back how do I smell the autumn wind again? How do I wear the silver and black? Like, I don't know that that's the case, but that always seems to be the narrative that immediately comes around when we talk about the Raiders. The other part that I agree with you, Joy, that concerns me about this is that Mark Davis clearly is taken by personalities. He's taken by the big image, right? I mean, that's what 10 years, 100 million for John Gruden. For what? What had he done in the previous decade that would suggest that he's the guy, other than he had that connection with the Raiders and he had that image of being Chucky, right? Other than that, there was no reason that you would hand him a 10-year, $100 million contract. And that's what concerns me, is that Mark Davis isn't looking like, how is Jim Harbaugh going to work here? And more important, can I keep Jim Harbaugh in his box? Because this is part of the Jim Harbaugh experience, is that he does come in and win. He does come in and change. But as he does, he's like the black Spider-Man suit. He gets his tentacles into everything, and he wants to have more and more control. And that starts to rub everybody else the wrong way. And they're like, no, let me do my job. And you need a strong owner to say, Jim, I brought you here for this reason. I need you to fix what I have. I like everything else. You just need to play your role. And if you don't have a strong owner, and you have somebody who's taken by big personalities, as Mark Davis has demonstrated, then you may not get the best Jim Harbaugh experience. And that part of it does concern me. But as far as where Jim Harbaugh is with Michigan and his opportunity, if the Raiders should present it to him, I'd say it's the right choice.
Rick, you kind of made my point. You talked about how Mark Davis went out and got John Gruden, gave him everything, gave him the keys to the castle, gave him 10 years, $100 million, let him do whatever he wanted to do. And John Gruden didn't have any pelts on the wall. Well, now you're talking about doing the same thing for someone who has done it again and again and again. And we have recent history to see that he just did it at Michigan. With Jacksonville, look, then it's the old Trent Baalke thing. Would he want to go down there? How do they handle that? So I don't think that's in play. With Chicago, look, we talk about the dysfunction with the Raiders. Chicago's dysfunctional. Yes, they've gone to the playoffs a few times under Matt Nagy, but that's not a functional organization. Also, they're older. The rebuild is harder. You're now talking about an opportunity to go to the Raiders, who have a winning season, who shoot. They may even go to the playoffs. So now all he has to do is go in and go from good to great. It's not a complete overall. And based on what his history is and based on the opportunities the Raiders would afford him to be the emperor, the czar, which is what, Rick, you guys said he wants, he's always done. Well, look, it's like he did in college. He gets to do everything. And when he gets to do it like he did in college, be seen to win. I would write the big check and say, Jim Harbaugh, take us to the promised land.
Well, they certainly don't have a problem writing that big check there. I wonder how all the Michigan fans feel about this story after they were trying to run him out of town a few years ago. Coming up, we're talking about my Steelers. We'll tell you if Pittsburgh's Super Bowl window has closed. Next on Speak for Yourself.
After the dramatic events in the Universal Championship match at day one, where do Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns go from here? Plus, Sami Zayn sets his sights on the Intercontinental title. It's an all-new edition of Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox.
The Steelers kept their playoff hopes alive with a win over the Browns Monday night. The win also guaranteed Mike Tomlin's 15th consecutive season without a losing record. Tomlin downplayed the achievement, saying the Steelers' agenda is to get into the playoffs in a, quote, effort to win the world championship. So, Rick, has the Steelers' Super Bowl window closed?
Yes, it has, Joy. I'm sorry to deliver that news. I know how you feel about the Steelers, but the reality is not only has it closed, but it closed 2 or 3 years ago, if we're going to be honest about it. But now that they are having to replace Ben Roethlisberger, and they're doing it with a defense that was ranked 22nd. The offense was ranked 21st. There's a lot of work to be done on this team to get it back to even, I would say, competing for a division title because of where the Bengals are and where the Ravens are. But if we're talking about Super Bowl, the reality is they haven't been there for a number of years. They will always be competitive, because I would imagine that Mike Tomlin isn't going anywhere, and Mike Tomlin is the reason that they've been as good as they've been, regardless of whatever has happened. I mean, this is a man who went 8-6 with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges. So his ability to take something and take nothing and make something out of it has been proven without a question. But if we're talking about actually being a Super Bowl contender, I don't know that I could say that they've been that for, going back to when they were 13-3 a couple of years ago.
No, the window hasn't closed for all the reasons that you just mentioned. And the number one reason is Mike Tomlin. Because they are always competitive and will always be competitive because they are a highly functional organization who does not fire coaches and does not panic. And Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in 15 seasons. And while he may be humble and downplay that and talk about what the standard is in Pittsburgh, which is championships, that is a major factor in rebooting. Because he is so consistent, because the Steelers are consistently competitive, I can't anticipate that they're going to go off of a cliff. So when they rebuild, which they're going to have to reboot without Ben Roethlisberger next year and make some moves. They're not climbing up from the bottom of the trenches of the NFL. It's much easier to go from being competitive to being a contender when you're consistently competitive and functional. And that's what Mike Tomlin is. Also, while the defense isn't at the top of the league this year, he has had a top 6 in NFL in total defense in 10 of his 15 seasons. They had 50-plus sacks in 5 straight seasons. And he's young. Still, when you can see, he's right in the middle of he's 49 years old, of what NFL coaches are. So it's not like he's reaching the end of his career, even though he's been coaching in the NFL for 15 years. So Mike Tomlin is the reason why their Super Bowl window is still open. Did it close with Ben Roethlisberger? Yeah, I think a couple years ago. I agree with you, Rick. I think they've definitely had some seasons where they've underachieved considering the amount of talent that they've had over the last 10 years. But it's hard to win championships, and they would know because they have a lot of them. So I have faith in Mike Tomlin that he will get them back to where they need to be. Obviously, they need to be very aggressive about replacing Ben Roethlisberger, but because of his long resume of success and sustained success, they don't have that much that they have to do to get back to being a contender.
Oh, I love that. I love that from Joy. Loving eyes never can see. Joy, it's over. It's all done. It's all done. The Super Bowl window is done. It'll be a while before they can get there. You can look up and revel in the success of Joey Burrow and those guys in Cincinnati because they'll be at the top for a minute. And if it's not them, then it's the Baltimore Ravens. But it'll be a while before we can see the Steelers get back. And part of it is due to they need a quarterback. Who is going to be the quarterback that brings them back? Is it Mason Rudolph? Is it Dwayne Haskins? Is it a draft pick? We talk about it all the time. It's a quarterback-driven league, and you need to have a quarterback to compete at the highest level. Sure, their defense to get them in the mix and keep them competitive. The running game with Najee Harris can reemerge. They can play a different style with a different quarterback. But until they get a blue chip quarterback in the building, they will not have an opportunity to compete for Super Bowls. I give Mike Tomlin credit because, man, he has been able to make miracles happen in Pittsburgh at times. Whether the injuries on defense, when he didn't have a quarterback, he had Dak Prescott playing. He has been able to get them to being a competitive team. But there is a difference, and it's hard to go from good to great in this league when you don't have a quarterback. Until we know who the Pittsburgh Steelers have as a quarterback, there is no way that we can say that their Super Bowl window is open. Until then, Joy, you have to rest with those memories of Super Bowls past because it'll be a minute before they get another one.
Bucky, you put that so nicely. You were so gentle with Joy in laying that out. That was very nice. Here's the issue, and you nailed it when it comes to the quarterback situation. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't have one. They don't know where they're going to get their next one. But it's worse because if I look at the AFC, the best young quarterbacks are in the AFC, and they've got to win the AFC in order to have Super Bowl ideas. So Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, all of these guys are just at the beginning. All those teams have the most important piece that they could possibly need to have in order to contend for a Super Bowl title, in order to think about winning the AFC. And the Pittsburgh Steelers simply aren't there. They need to find that guy, and then they need to do some restructuring as far as the rest of the team is concerned. They've got some nice pieces, and there's no doubt that Mike Tomlin is going to make the most of them. But there's a difference between being competitive and being a Super Bowl contender. I believe that the Steelers will always be competitive. There'll always be a tough out. But are they Super Bowl worthy? They haven't been since the Kansas City Chiefs began their run, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
You mentioned it's hard to go from good to great. You know what's harder to do? Go from bad to great. And in the AFC North, we've seen two teams for a very long time be bad, in Cincinnati and in Cleveland. And I couldn't hear enough at the beginning of the season about how the Cleveland Browns are Super Bowl contenders. We need to take them seriously. I love Joe Burrow, but I know neither one of you actually think that the Bengals are Super Bowl contenders right now. They're still rebuilding, and Zach Taylor is not the coach that Mike Tomlin is. So when I'm looking at what the Steelers have at their core, they have a Hall of Fame head coach that's not going anywhere, who's never had a losing season and has been to 2 Super Bowls and won one. So he knows what it takes to get there. He's going to reboot and have this defense running at the highest level very soon. They're not in a complete rebuild. I'm with you that they need a quarterback. I'm upset that they don't have a succession plan for Ben Roethlisberger. They had the opportunity to see what they needed when Ben was out, and they had Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph, and they didn't do anything. I agree with you there. But what happens if, and this is a fantasy, but there has been some conversation about it. I'm not counting on this in any way. But what happens if Aaron Rodgers comes to the Steelers because he wants a new challenge next year? Is the Super Bowl window back open? I think that it might be. So if they get the right quarterback in there, and there's a lot of quarterback talent out there coming into the league every single year, there's no reason why they wouldn't trade up and get someone. There's a lot of movement with quarterbacks now these days. We've seen it. Tom Brady is in Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers is flirting with Mike Tomlin. He's talked about what he doesn't. We don't know what he's going to do. I'm not counting on that situation, but I'm just saying I feel much better about a possible Super Bowl in the future with the Steelers, with a coach like Mike Tomlin that's never had a losing season and has been to 2 Super Bowls, and an organization that has won 6 Super Bowls, than I would dealing with a rookie quarterback with a traditionally dysfunctional organization.
Well, look, I can agree with you with the stability and the consistency of the Steelers, giving you an opportunity to remain competitive and maybe even a viable dark horse contender. That said, the turnarounds that you spoke to, even in that division, were driven by the quarterback. Joe Burrow has played at an MVP level where you can talk about him being an MVP based on how the Bengals have risen up. We can talk about Lamar Jackson. He won the MVP when Baltimore took over. Baker Mayfield is the outlier, the anomaly, but the team around him was so talented that they vaulted to the top. And so when I look at the Steelers are talented, but they're not quite an A-level talent team, meaning they still have some deficiencies and holes throughout their roster, and without a blue-chip quarterback in place to maybe erase some of those issues or mask some of those flaws, they won't be able to do it. And so we can talk about Aaron Rodgers coming, or maybe Deshaun Watson comes, or maybe Russell Wilson drops out of the sky and lands at Heinz Field. I just don't know how we can predict or say that any of those guys are going to land in Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh traditionally hasn't done business like that. This is a homegrown franchise and organization that believes in drafting and developing. And so if we're looking at the draft, I don't see a guy coming in there and changing the fortunes of the Steelers. It may be a minute. You may have to hang around that 500 line for a minute, Joy. It may be a while before they become a good and great team.
Bucky, you're still being too nice. Joy and I have done the show together all week, so I can say it directly. To answer your question, Joy, no, there is not a quarterback that they can get that is going to make them Super Bowl contenders next season.
If Aaron Rodgers goes there, they're not Super Bowl contenders. Come on, you don't even believe it. You don't even believe that, Rick. Rick, you do not believe that. I know you don't want to put that on tape. You do not believe that.
I don't believe Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh.
Okay, but you can't say there's not a quarterback that doesn't make them Super Bowl contenders.
Okay,
Aaron Rodgers
now we're in Dumber and Dumber, so you're telling me there's a chance.
Yes, I'm telling you there's a chance. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, coming up, a writer called out Aaron Rodgers and says he's not getting his MVP vote. We'll tell you if the quarterback's drama should factor into the process next. Aaron Rodgers is the MVP frontrunner according to Fox Bet Sportsbook, but he will not be a unanimous winner. Chicago writer said Rodgers will not get his vote because, quote, the way he's carried himself is inappropriate. I think he's a bad guy, and I don't think a bad guy can be the most valuable guy at the same time. Rodgers responded today calling the writer a, quote, absolute bum. So, Bucky, should Aaron Rodgers' drama factor into MVP voting?
It should not factor into the MVP voting, but we've seen these things factor into MVP votes, Hall of Fame votes, and all that other stuff. People are human. The people that are voting are human, and sometimes the outside stuff filters in and it impacts the way that you judge their on-field performance. Think about T.O. and how long it took him to get into the Hall of Fame, regardless of whether his numbers proved that he was worthy enough of doing it. Sometimes guys on the outside have agendas that they bring to the table. It's not right, but you're human. And I think with Aaron Rodgers and all the other stuff and how he may be glib and smug and all that other stuff, sometimes that turns people off. The performance is definitely MVP caliber. But sometimes you get tired of the stuff, the other stuff. And there's been so much stuff that you're like, I don't really want to give him the MVP. If it's close enough, maybe I will send my vote to Joe Burrow. But it shouldn't factor in, but it does. I understand because we're all human. I get it.
It should absolutely not factor into the MVP award. And this is what my issue with sports journalists and writers thinking they're like the scribes and keepers of history or something. We see this all the time with the Baseball Hall of Fame, and it drives me absolutely crazy. We have a character award. It is very prestigious. It's called the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. Players take it very seriously. Fans take it seriously. It is a massive honor to win this award. That is a character award. Goes to a guy who's done a lot for the community, represents the NFL well, has good character. It's a character award. That's what we have it for. And it's very prestigious. We take it very seriously. That's not the MVP award. The MVP award is about what's happening on the field. Furthermore, what did Aaron Rodgers do that affected his team in a negative way? If anything, when he was out with COVID, it proved his value to that team even more because Jordan Love was clearly not the guy. They still won the NFC, have the number 1 seed and home field advantage, and won their division. So I'm just trying to figure out what Aaron Rodgers did that is in his character that harmed the team. Look, I don't agree with what Aaron Rodgers did. I think I've made that pristinely clear. I don't love all of Aaron Rodgers' decisions, but I'm capable of separating art from artists if my responsibility is to decide something as serious, something that factors into your legacy in the way that the MVP award does. Now, we can argue about what valuable means and how this award has become a quarterback award, but at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is absolutely deserving. Tom Brady deserves some mentions in there. Joe Burrow. Obviously, a lot of people feel that Jonathan Taylor is the MVP this year. But Aaron Rodgers deserves the MVP. And your personal opinion about what he does in his personal life or even his professional life when it came down to COVID, which was obviously the big controversy this year, has nothing to do with how he played on the field. And this is why people get frustrated with the media. I'm not a huge media defender. We're just a bunch of nerds who talk about what other people do for a living. So I don't take myself too seriously in that regard. I take what I do seriously, but not myself seriously. And when you become the conversation, that is the problem. That's what drives me crazy about this. You can't, as the media, make yourself the story. And that's what happened here. And I brought up the Baseball Hall of Fame because we talk about this all the time. Every time the Baseball Hall of Fame vote comes up, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the players? Are we talking about this prestigious honor? No. We're talking about which voter won't put Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame. Don't make yourself the story. That is the number one rule in our business. Don't make yourself the story. And that's what happened here. Aaron Rodgers absolutely deserves to be the MVP. And my biggest frustration with all of this is I can't stand giving breadcrumbs to these crazy conspiracy tinfoil hat people. Because every time you say something like this, people start running away with all the voters are going to vote against Aaron Rodgers because he's an anti-vaxxer. Like, no, this one person said that. And now all of a sudden everyone is incriminated in this. He deserves to be the MVP. Don't get caught up in the nonsense of he's a bad guy or a good guy or whatever. It sounds great, sounds nice, but everybody can't be your cup of tea. This is about what's happening on the field.
Drama, without question, should be a factor when you're voting for MVP or any other award because it's part of the deal. Now, let's take it, for example, we just went through this with Antonio Brown. If the Tampa Bay Buccaneers end up falling short, losing in the first round, in part because they don't have a wide receiving core. And Antonio Brown was having the kind of season where he was up for All-Pro or some sort of award. Do you not think that his behavior in running off the field and doing what he did, if that in any way can be tied to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers falling short, that's drama. That's not technically performance on the field. And yet it's having a huge impact on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or at least it has the potential of doing that. So I believe that there are circumstances where the drama that a player creates has to be taken in consideration when you're talking about awarding them something special. Now, when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, no, it shouldn't be a factor because it hasn't affected the team. It hasn't affected his performance. It didn't prevent the Green Bay Packers from posting the best record in football and already locking up their position. But if it had, let's imagine, say, the first game. I'm going back to the first game of the season. Aaron Rodgers didn't play well. The Green Bay Packers didn't play well. And there were indications that, well, is this a reflection of everything that was happening during the offseason? Aaron holding out, Aaron not showing up. Well, if that game and that loss had an influence on their season, or say there was more than that game, if they hadn't turned it around right afterward, I would have to look at everything that happened with Aaron Rodgers, and I would have to say that the drama that he created potentially undermined the team. And that is not what an MVP does. So in this circumstance, to be clear, I don't agree with the position of the voter. But if we're answering the question, are there circumstances where the drama a athlete or player creates can potentially affect how I would vote for him when it comes to an award? I'm going to tell you yes. If the drama he creates is counterproductive for the team and its success or his individually, then yes, I'm going to take that into consideration. Might not be the determining factor, but to say it wouldn't be a factor, I would not be telling the truth.
Look, Joy, Rick, we all are impacted by like what we know about people. It's one of those deals. Joy, I'm sitting here telling you that my right foot right now is barefoot, and I can put it on the screen. And if I put my foot and my toe on the screen, it would change how you view me. Rick Bucher would say the same thing. If I reach back, and I don't want to do it, Joy, but if I reach back and put my toe up there, you would look at me differently.
I believe you, Bucky.
You would look at me differently. And that is what happened with Aaron Rodgers. All of the stuff all of the stuff going on, Pat McAfee's show, the toe jam incident, all of it has kind of changed a little bit how we view him. And so it makes us a little squeamish sometimes when we talk about Aaron Rodgers. Not because we can't appreciate the talent, but some of the other stuff you're like, I don't know. I don't love it. And so that is why. So I understand the thing. It shouldn't impact, but we're not robots. We have feelings. We tend to process these things a little differently. And so with Aaron Rodgers, don't like the drama, but the drama certainly has impacted the way people view him. He will be the MVP, but you certainly look at him a little differently now that we know more about him and some of his beliefs as opposed to how we viewed him before.
So there's a couple layers to this. The first layer is the journalism layer. I am not a journalist, despite what Twitter might accuse me of. That's not my job. My job is to give my opinion. And because that is the case, I hold journalists, I hold people who are expected to be unbiased to a higher standard, because I'm not. I would not want to vote for the league MVP because of my personal opinions. Now, when I do have to remove my opinion from something and look at it objectively, which I do every day, then I do that. But that's not what my job is. I'm not going to make this a gender thing. I don't want to make it a gender thing, but I am going to make it a gender thing. I'm a woman. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I'm an abuse survivor. I have to separate art from artists all the time to do my job with some level of respect. I have to talk about guys and women and people that I don't necessarily think are good, but it's not my job to be a moral, have some moral judgment about everything. Certain things, yes, like, as I mentioned, the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. But when we're talking about something that should remain mostly objective, and you are a keeper of this piece of history, your vote will affect what goes into the record books. You have a responsibility to separate your personal opinion about someone at some level. I get it. We're not robots. But what Aaron Rodgers did, whether you think it's right or wrong, as Rick said, did not affect the team in a negative way. What could they have done better this year? Could they have won another game? Maybe. But they locked up the NFC. They have home field advantage. They're the number one seed, and they won their division. So my only issue is I don't like encouraging the mob's idea that the media is unable to be objective because of their personal beliefs or moral beliefs when it comes to things that shouldn't be considered in that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't respect good people for what they do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't respect people that treat people with respect. I'm not saying that you shouldn't respect people that have the same opinion as you. But you have to be able to separate the two when it comes to things of this nature, because it encourages the idea that all of us are incapable of doing our jobs without any level of objectivity.
Agreed, Joy. And this is the thing that gets me about the mob that I find funny, is that the mob is like, well, the media, they you know what, they get their personal feelings into it. It's conspiracies. And yet the mob, when Antonio Brown did what he did, they were like, oh, he'll never play again. Oh, he's not in the Hall of Fame. Like, there was already like all of these determinations based on that incident. So I've seen the mob react exactly the way they accuse the media of acting. In this particular case, when it comes to this particular voter, the tell is that he let everybody know how he was voting.
Right.
And one of the rules is, as he acknowledged, you're not supposed to disclose how you're voting. So this wasn't about the vote. This was about his position on Aaron Rodgers. That's what he wanted everybody to know. And that is the tell that his voting didn't have to do with MVP or anything other than he wanted to make a statement that he doesn't like Aaron Rodgers and the way Aaron Rodgers has behaved. Now, once upon a time, I was a beat writer. And as a beat writer, when you're around a team all the time, and I'm sure Bucky can second this, like when you're around a team all the time, you know a lot about what's going on. You know the dirty laundry. You know, like all the behind the scenes stuff. And as a beat writer, I don't know that this discretion exists anymore, but it used to be, okay, what part of this am I going to write about? Like, we were allowed to come in and watch practice when I first started covering the league. And if two guys got into it, you know what? You wouldn't necessarily write about it because that happened. Guys throw some bows underneath it and got to be separated. you wouldn't write about it because that happened on a regular basis and you didn't want to lose the access of being able to watch practice if you were going to make a big deal about every single thing. So it came down to, we got these layers of gray. And how do I make a decision on what is important for me to write about? What should I be writing about? And what do I need to keep in my back pocket? And I came to the conclusion that if something happened that affected a player's ability on the court or on the field, undermined his ability to do his job to the level that he should, then it was fair game. If I knew a guy was out all night and then, had a terrible game or showed up late or did whatever, that became fair game. If he was out until 6 o'clock in the morning, if he was doing Michael Jordan and he was going to Atlantic City and comes back and he still scores 50, you know what? Hey, he's getting the job done. I don't know that that's necessarily that I need to write about that. And that's the distinction, is that we're dealing with all these layers of gray. But what it comes back to, for me, from my view of how this works, is I'm going to judge you based on how you do your job, not who you are or what your personality is. Unless that personality screws up your team and keeps you from being able to do your job to the best of your ability.
Well said. Coming up, we're headed back to Dallas. Can Dak Prescott carry the Cowboys to the Super Bowl? We'll answer that next on Speak for Yourself. Thanks, Bucky. The Cowboys have the NFC East title wrapped up, but there are still some doubters out there. Bleacher Report said Dallas is one of the teams that are most likely to squander their chance at the Super Bowl. They wrote their inconsistent play and vulnerability at home, including last week's loss to the Cardinals, are factors. Bringing in Fox NFL analyst TJ Hushmanzada. So, TJ, are you confident that Dak Prescott can carry the Cowboys to a Super Bowl?
I am. As long as I don't have to play the Packers and the Rams, I'm very confident. So, to answer that question, no, I don't believe Dak can carry him to the Super Bowl. The defense is very opportunistic, so to speak. Number one in the league in takeaways with 33. You cannot rely on taking the ball away every single game. Offensively, they've just been up and down. And play the Washington football team. Great offensively. They come back the following week. Not so good. And they're playing at home. And so if this team is going to be Super Bowl contenders, Dak is going to have to be better. That offense is going to have to be better. Losing Michael Gallup does not help them. And so it's going to be a tough road. I see the Cowboys winning one playoff game. After that, it's a wrap. They can't sustain offense consistently enough to be good. And that defense, you can't rely on the takeaways.
I'm going to say yes, TJ. I know I'm the big Dak defender. I feel like I'm the big Dak defender on the whole network, but it's fine. I'm fine with that because I do. I believe it. I think that the formula for winning a Super Bowl isn't just having an over-the-top, outstanding, once-in-a-lifetime talent. I'm old enough to remember Nick Foles winning a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Would anyone say that Nick Foles is better than Dak Prescott? I wouldn't. I don't know that Mike McCarthy is that much better or worse of a coach than Doug Peterson. And what did the Eagles have that year that they won the Super Bowl? A good defense. That's what Dallas has. So I don't think that Dallas is going to win the Super Bowl this year, but there's no reason why they can't. They have a great defense. They have a solid coach. They have a good quarterback in Dak Prescott. And as long as their running game is functioning, they win. So I don't really actually see what the issue is outside of not being Patrick Mahomes and not being Aaron Rodgers and not being Matthew Stafford and not being Tom Brady, which he's not going to wake up one day and be those guys. So is he capable of winning a Super Bowl being the guy that he is in Dak Prescott? I believe so. And their defense is a big factor in why I think they're capable of winning a Super Bowl. Because even though it is the GOAT and Tom Brady who won the Super Bowl last year, I think we can all admit that Tampa's defense doesn't get enough credit for what they did in that Super Bowl and was a massive factor in why they won. So I know Rick is going to disagree with me, but that's how I feel.
See, this is why I am painted as a Dak hater. It's because of people like you two who are changing the question, which is not whether the Dallas Cowboys can win a Super Bowl, and it's not whether Dak Prescott can win a Super Bowl. It's can Dak Prescott carry the Cowboys to a Super Bowl? And the answer is no, that he can't. Now, can he be a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Yes, I believe he can. And to be absolutely clear, and I hate that I even have to explain this, but I feel like I do. I like Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, for where he came from and where he was drafted, is an overachiever. Make no mistake about that. His character, the way he leads a team, his tough, everything about Dak Prescott. I sound like Jerry Jones now. I'm very, very pleased. Not very, very pleased. I'm ecstatic about Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott as a person, as a player. Now, here's the difference. Here's the distinction. Dak Prescott, as a guy who's getting paid $75 million this year and now is getting paid as well as any quarterback in the league, that changes the equation for me because he now has to make good on that money. And I'm not counting his money, but I'm looking at the dynamics of the NFL, which is I only have so much money to spend and I have to invest it wisely. And so as up till now, and you, I don't know, Joy, I think you said like you don't know if they're going to win a Super Bowl this year, but they could. They better win a Super Bowl this year because once that money starts to impact the cap, the money that Dak is making, it means there's going to be less money to spend on other pieces and to keep this team whole, including some of those young pieces on defense. So that's where the rub comes in. And do I think Dak Prescott could be part of a championship winning team? Yes, I do believe he is a good enough quarterback to do that. We've seen worse quarterbacks accomplish that. But do I think that Dak Prescott getting paid what he's getting paid will allow the Dallas Cowboys to build a Super Bowl winning team if it isn't this year? That's where I think it becomes increasingly difficult. And it's not about who Dak Prescott is as much as what he makes and how it impacts the Dallas Cowboys and their salary cap. So I hope I've made it clear. I don't hate Dak Prescott. I don't hate the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just looking at facts and figures and trying to make them make sense.
Yeah, I believe Dak Prescott is the top 10 quarterback in the league. Carry him, that's tough. That run game is hit or miss. Some games they run it really well. Other games they don't. But what I will say, like Trayvon Diggs, he's a youngster. He's in his second year. He's not getting a contract for 2 more years. Micah Parsons is a rookie. And so they have a window. But can Dak be the sole reason why? Can he put him on his back and say, let's go? Everything has to go right. You have to continue to force turnovers at a rate. I mean, they're averaging 2 turnovers a game, or they're getting 2 turnovers a game defensively. It's hard to rely on that. And then you look at the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't turn the ball over. They play great defense. They run the ball. They can pass the ball. The Rams, they're also hit or miss. The Bucs I would have thrown in there earlier, but they with AB gone, Chris Godwin hurt. It's going to turn into Tom Brady, the Gronk, and the Mike Evans show. I just don't think that's enough. But can Dak carry him? No. Dak is a good quarterback. He has a career high in touchdowns, a career high in completion percentage. He just can't be the guy to say, hey, get on my back. As Bucky Brooks would say, is he a tractor or a trailer? I wouldn't say he's a tractor, and he's not the trailer. He's somewhere in between.
I mean, so by that standard, how many tractors are there in the league? Because I'm counting Mahomes.
It's probably a handful.
And Rodgers.
Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers.
But
Joe
you just
Burrow
said Brady.
Like
you worried about Brady because of everything they just lost.
But Brady has shown us.
Okay, so we got Brady, we got Rodgers, and we got Mahomes. Right now, normally I would put Russell Wilson in there, but right now I don't know if he is playing like that. So Brady, Rodgers,
you got some
Mahomes.
Guys that are showing they can be tractors. You got Burrow, you got Josh Allen, you got Herbert. They're right there on the cusp of being tractors.
But so you got to win a Super Bowl to do it. And that's just what I'm saying. Like you are something until you're not, right? So Dak hasn't done it yet. So right now he's a trailer. But do I believe he can be a tractor? I do. I do think he can make that transformation. So if we're saying right now or in the future? Because if we're projecting, I do think he can carry a team. I do think he can get to that level. I've seen less talented quarterbacks do it. Why can't Dak do it? Coming up, Lamar Jackson has faced a lot of obstacles, but he could be coming back. We'll tell you if his struggles are something or nothing. Next. Lamar Jackson made the Pro Bowl this season, but he also has career highs in interceptions, sacks, and games missed to injury. The Ravens are in danger of missing the playoffs for the first time with him as their starter. Lamar is fighting through an ankle injury, and John Harbaugh said there's a chance he'll play Sunday against the Steelers. He did not practice today, but Rick, are Lamar's struggles this season something or nothing?
They are something for sure. They're just not everything. When I look at the Ravens collectively, this isn't just about Lamar Jackson underachieving or Lamar Jackson missing time because of injury. This is a Ravens team that had high expectations, but never really had a full complement. They've been dealing with injuries all year long, and the array of them, not just guys in and out with COVID, but I mean serious season-ending injuries. We've got a whole list of them, some key players on that list as well. So I think that's part of it. And also, when you're a former MVP and your team has high expectations and you are undergunned, what's the natural tendency? It's to try to do more. And I believe that's ultimately where Lamar has gotten into trouble. Yes, the interceptions are higher than ever before. The sacks are higher than ever before. He also had a career high 4 fourth-quarter comebacks and 4 game-winning drives. I think he's tried to throw the ball into spaces that simply weren't there, trying to make something happen because they didn't have everything that they normally have as far as an arsenal offensively. Defense wasn't quite the same. So the pressure on him to try to do more resulted in fumbles, resulted in interceptions, resulted in passes being made that simply didn't need to be made. So I see all of that as things that are fixable, that things that Lamar Jackson can change between now and when he plays again. And so it is something. It's a factor. But is it a determination that Lamar Jackson, the league's figured him out, or that he can't get back to MVP status, or that he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the league? I reject that idea. I think it's circumstantial.
For every reason you just said, I'm going to say it's nothing, because you don't have to have a great season every season. And they were snake bitten from the jump. They lost J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Justice Hill before the season started. I mean, you just showed the list of injuries that they've had this year. And yes, every team has dealt with injuries this year, and every team has dealt with COVID issues. They just happen to be the team that couldn't overcome it. And I'm not going to hold that against them. I know what the Ravens are traditionally. Very well-functioning organization. We know what Lamar Jackson is. He's a league MVP. He's also dealing with an injury. Sometimes it's just too much to overcome. It can't be your year every year, and that doesn't mean that you're falling apart. It doesn't mean that the league has figured Lamar Jackson out. It doesn't mean that his style of play is going to be his demise. We're always trying to crush Lamar Jackson and take away his superpowers. This is what he does. I don't need Lamar Jackson to play for 23 years. I don't need him to be what every other quarterback is. He is special at what he does. The league hasn't figured him out. It's just a down season for the Ravens, and that's why I say it's nothing. Do any of us anticipate that Lamar Jackson isn't going to get healthy and come back and be highly competent and productive and be a contender next year? Because I certainly do. They're going to get healthy. They're going to figure it out. I'm not concerned about this at all. You don't have to be in the Super Bowl contention every single year for me to think that you cannot bounce back. The Ravens have shown consistency. Lamar Jackson has shown consistency and growth. They're just dealing with a lot of injuries, and one of these teams was not going to be able to overcome this, and it's clearly the Ravens this year. We saw this with the 49ers for the past couple years. They just got demolished with injuries. We know that they're a good team. We know what they're capable of, but they just couldn't overcome the injuries, and sometimes teams just can't.
For me, it's absolutely nothing. And you look, you lose your top 3 running backs. Lamar Jackson has 13 interceptions, career high. Sacked 38 times, career high. And the reason, his MVP season, he threw the ball 401 times in 15 games. In 12 games this year, he was already at 382. He was throwing the ball so much because we're signing Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman. They really don't know the offense, so they're putting so much on his plate. And those sacks or interceptions are a product of this. He's sitting in the pocket a little too long, trying to make a play instead of, okay, there's nothing there. Let me get out and use my legs. And so when you look at his passing yards, 240 a game, that is the best he's had in his 4 years by a long shot, by 34 yards a game. And so he was improving as a passer. He was forcing some throws. He was sitting in the pocket a little longer than probably the coaching staff would have liked. He's made improvement. But when you lose your top 3 running backs on the depth chart, I don't know who can overcome that, especially a team that is so reliant on the run game. And so I believe it's absolutely nothing. He'll come back next year. He'll rectify these mistakes, and I expect to see a better Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious that it was going to be an uphill battle before the season even started. You lose your top 3 running backs and a team like the Ravens where you want to have a really balanced offense. It was going to be a tough go for them, but they'll be back next year. Coming up, Jim Harbaugh could be coming back to the NFL. We'll tell you which team would be the best fit next on Speak for Yourself. A big NFL return could be in the works. Our own Bruce Feldman reports Jim Harbaugh might be tempted to leave Michigan for the NFL. The Jaguars, Raiders, and his old franchise, the Bears, could all be potential landing spots. So, TJ, which NFL team would be the best fit for Jim Harbaugh?
When I first looked at this question, I said, it's the Raiders. Good quarterback. And then I thought, what are you thinking, TJ? They got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in that division. And they got Justin Herbert and the Chargers in that division. That's not the best fit. I like the Bears. But when I really think about it, I'm going to the Jacksonville Jaguars if they get rid of Trent Baalke, because they don't have they just don't get along. You have a franchise quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. They're bad, but they have draft capital, they have salary cap space, and they're in a division that's winnable. That division is winnable. And so Jim Harbaugh is a fantastic coach. Like, when you look up great coaches, his name and picture should pop up. San Francisco 49ers. The year before he got there, they were 8-8. What did he do? Oh, we're just going to go 13-3 and go to the conference championship. The next year we go 12-4. We go to the Super Bowl. Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. Wherever he goes, he's going to be successful. But I'm going to Jacksonville if they get rid of Trent Baalke, because I have a franchise quarterback, I have draft picks, and I have cap space.
I'm going to say Chicago, actually. And part of that reason is Justin Fields. We've seen him be successful with a run-first quarterback in Colin Kaepernick. Alex Smith was even a little mobile too, but obviously Colin Kaepernick was the next level. I don't doubt that Harbaugh is going to be successful anywhere he goes, because he's been successful everywhere he goes. But I also don't look at Harbaugh as a long-term solution for a situation. So you don't want to waste any more time developing Justin Fields. Obviously, this year was a bit of a disaster for Chicago, but not as much of a disaster as it was for the Oakland Raiders. What's happening with the Oakland Raiders is wildly impressive, considering how dysfunctional not only they've been this year, but year after year after year after year. So I'm thinking that the Chicago Bears is the best landing spot if he's going to come back to the NFL, which it seems like he very well might. And looking at his history of when he leaves organizations and programs, he always tends to leave when it feels like a little bit early, but maybe they've reached their ceiling with what he can do there. And that seems to be the situation in Michigan. So if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears too. And I hear you, TJ, when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars and having a blank slate if Trent Baalke is not there. And obviously they didn't get along when they were with the 49ers. My concern with Jim Harbaugh and building a program as opposed to taking the talent that is there and uplifting it is that he's always had the talent that's been readily available. It's been there for him to mold. That's certainly what he did with the 49ers. That talent was underachieving, and he brought a discipline and a design to it that had not been there previously, and that's why they were able to grow as quickly as they did. When you build from where the Jacksonville Jaguars are, it's going to take a little bit of time. And there's a shelf life with Jim Harbaugh. He wears people out. So the question is going to be in Jacksonville, can he rise? Can he bring them up in the time that he usually has before people are ready to change out and go in another direction? So that's why I would go with the Bears. My only question, and I agree, and another part too, the division. Like the Raiders division, I'm not going in there thinking that I'm going to make anything happen anytime soon. And you already have a quarterback that's basically a finished product. With the Bears, particularly in that division, depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers, that's a wide open division, and you have a young quarterback that he can work with. My only question is, can a Michigan man really make the most out of an Ohio State quarterback? That would be my only reservation when it comes to Jim Harbaugh working with Justin Fields. But other than that, that is the direction that I think Jim should go if he has that opportunity.
I truly believe Aaron Rodgers is going to stay in Green Bay. You're not winning that division if you go to Chicago. So you're going to Chicago to compete for a wild card? Nah. You can win the AFC South. You can win that division. They need some coaching. They need some direction. Everybody said Trevor Lawrence was a generational quarterback. Jim Harbaugh has done well with quarterbacks. He can fix that. The only Trent Baalke, they don't get along. They have pieces, but better yet, I've talked to people, ton of cap space, and they have draft picks. Trevor Lawrence needs a direction of somebody that saw the game from the same position that he's seeing it at. And so that you'll respect that he'll give you input and he'll talk to you the way a quarterback sees the game. And so I believe that would help him. The Houston Texans, they're not going to be very good. The Colts, good up front on both sides of the ball, but they can be beat. Mike Vrabel has done so much for Tennessee. You put Harbaugh in that division, I like my chances.
It's definitely a better division. But what I think when I think of Jacksonville and Las Vegas is they need an entire culture rebuild, or just a build at all if there wasn't ever any culture to begin with. I don't think of that when I think of Harbaugh. I think of what we just talked about, him elevating the talent that's already there. I don't think of Chicago as a dysfunctional organization as much as just they can't overcome themselves and they need to get winning. They need to elevate the talent that they already have. They're bringing some more pieces. They do have a Green Bay problem, but who knows what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? You can't just not. There's talent all over the place. You can't just not go somewhere because there's a great quarterback. And if that's the case, then he definitely shouldn't go to the Raiders because you got Mahomes and Herbert in their division, and who knows what the Broncos are going to do. So it's never going to be the perfect situation. But if you're looking for a place that has a talent that you know you can develop, that has a great fan base, it doesn't need a full culture rebuild, just a little elevation, then I think Chicago is the way to go. Coming up, Kyrie or Klay? We'll tell you which player will have a bigger impact in their highly anticipated returns next. Kyrie Irving is expected to make his return tonight against the Pacers after missing the Nets' first 35 games due to COVID-19 protocols. There's also optimism Klay Thompson will make his return to the Warriors Sunday against the Cavs after missing the last 2 years due to injuries. So, Rick, who will have the bigger impact in their return, Kyrie Irving or Klay Thompson?
As of right now, I'm expecting Kyrie Irving is going to have the bigger impact, even though he is going to be a part-time player. And the biggest reason is that I don't know what I'm going to get from Klay Thompson. Kyrie Irving has missed the start of this season because he refused to get vaccinated, and then he tested positive for COVID. Klay Thompson has missed the last 2 years after tearing his ACL in the 2019 finals and then blowing out his Achilles before the start of last season. So he's missed 2+ years because of 2 devastating injuries, and we've never seen anybody come back and play after 2 injuries of this kind. So when I simply look at, I don't know what I'm going to get from Klay Thompson. I don't know how good he's going to be. Yes, we've got all this video of him playing in scrimmages. As we know, game speed and game intensity is just different than practice. It always is. I hope he simply is able to stay healthy and able to contribute. But for Kyrie Irving, it's simply a matter of, can he get back into shape and be the Kyrie Irving that we last saw? And I have a better chance of seeing that than I do seeing the same old Klay.
Well, even if Kyrie does get back in shape, he's only playing in away games. So how much can he contribute, especially when we get into the postseason? how is that going to work with lineup changes? I'm excited about seeing both of them back. I wanted to see Kyrie with this Nets team from the start, but obviously protocols prohibited that from happening. And the way this variant's going around, it doesn't look like New York City is changing their mandate anytime soon. So he's going to be playing part-time. I think that Klay is going to have a bigger impact. I don't have any concern about what Klay is going to look like long-term coming back from these injuries. Of course, at first, it's going to take a while for him to get into game shape, as it's going to take Kyrie a little while to get into game shape. But I know what Klay was before this, and, you know, despite the fact that Kyrie might not trust doctors that much, I do. We have some pretty great modern technology, and I think that they're going to get Klay fixed right up and right back in shape. And I know what Klay was before he was injured. I don't think that he's going to have a problem bouncing back from these injuries, even though it has been a long time. It just might take a little while for him to get back into the groove of things because it has been 2 years.
I got to go with Kyrie Irving as well. You haven't played this sport in 2 years, 2 catastrophic injuries. You don't know how you're going to look. You don't know how you're going to react, because when you practice, you're practicing at a level that you can control. When you get in the game, you just react. And will he, in the back of his mind, he's going to be nervous. He's going to have some trepidation about going all out, because I've missed 2 years. Last year, Kyrie Irving played 54 games. He averaged 27 points a game. Klay Thompson has never averaged 27 points a game. And so at their very best, Kyrie Irving was a better player than Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is coming off 2 injuries where he missed 2 years in a row. Kyrie, he should be able to play 40 minutes a game. You're not playing home games, and so you should be fresh. You should be able to give him all that you have. And so impact, although Klay will play in more games, you can literally play Kyrie 40 games and not have to worry about tomorrow or the next game, because he's not going to play in it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I go so far as to say Kyrie's the better player if we're going to talk about both ends of the floor. But that said,
on, man.
I'm going to say this. No. I'm not going to get into that debate. I'm just going to tell you the Brooklyn Nets need help more than the Golden State Warriors do. I think that's one other factor here. Like, the Warriors have the best record in the league right now. They're getting everything that they need from Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. Klay's going to have to take some of those minutes, and he's going to have to match and exceed what those guys are already producing in order for him to have an impact. Where the Nets are right now, they need Kyrie Irving. It's one of the reasons why they're bringing him back, in spite of the fact that they said we don't want a part-time player. It's because they need help. So even part-time, I hear you, Joy. I don't like the situation. That's a debate for another day. But I do believe that the door is open for Kyrie to have an impact on the Nets, simply because they need someone to have an impact.
Yeah, we got to run back that conversation about Klay and Kyrie as well. Hold up.
Yes, we do.
Hold up. Because Klay's a real defender, so we got to talk. Maybe we talk about that tomorrow. Coming up, Micah Parsons is having an unbelievable rookie season, but we'll tell you if he's been the most impressive rookie this season. Next. The Cowboys struck gold drafting Micah Parsons back in April. The star linebacker is being discussed for Defensive Player of the Year, and Parsons praised himself yesterday, saying, quote, "I take complete pride in being the most versatile player in the NFL." So, TJ, has Micah Parsons been the most impressive rookie this season?
He has not. He's been the most impressive versatile player that can do more than one thing. What Micah Parsons has done, we've seen Javon Curse and Alden Smith do. What Jamar Chase has accomplished, we've never seen it. Just last year, Justin Jefferson set the rookie record for receiving, and 1 year later, Jamar Chase surpasses it and breaks the record. And so you win games by scoring points. Micah Parsons is very impressive, but the most impressive rookie is for sure Jamar Chase.
Well, I agree that Jamar Chase has had an unbelievable season. This is splitting hairs, but if I have to pick, I would say Micah Parsons, because Micah Parsons is not only in the conversation for Defensive Rookie of the Year, he's also in conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, tied with T.J. Watt for most sacks in the NFL. I'm sorry, for most tackles for loss in the NFL. Only player in the NFL with 10-plus sacks and 80-plus tackles this season, 13 sacks in the season. He's been a complete commanding force for that Cowboys defense and the reason why they're winning.
Those are accomplishments for the season. Jamar Chase's 266 yards against KC are the most by a rookie in any game in NFL history. It's Jamar Chase.
It's been really impressive. That's it for us. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow on Speak for Yourself.